The city council for Monday the 15th at 5:31. We're here to discuss, I don't know if there's we'll go ahead and take a roll call.
Councilperson Zastavny. Here. Councilperson Yan. Here. Councilperson Maples.
Here.
Councilperson Gill.
Here.
Council President Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Here.
Councilperson Webb.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect 8 council members are present.
We'll go ahead and start. Chief McBoy, if you'd like to come on up, or Chief Kavanaugh. We're here discussing budgets as it pertains to LOIT funding. Both chiefs of both departments have expressed some concern on funding and how it's been structured for the year 2016, and some of the cuts that were made in this year's budget last year. So Chief, if you want to get us started.
Thank you. Good evening. I want to bring to light, with respect to the previous council, that from the budget from 2015 into 16, there were some appropriations that were missed. And as the residual effects are, coming January, we're transferring money from various places within our budget. Starting January off, making transfers there, that's just not, the budget's just all convoluted and it's all over the place, where we have some places that are missing. One of the notable things I want to bring here as an illustration, again, this is not to point any fingers or faults, we want to bring this to light, that we submitted the budget without any officers there. Then once it was appropriated, determined that we're going to have 3 new officers hired, we did not have any funds that were allocated and approved there in the appropriation for officers for supplies and equipment. So therefore, we started to, with the new officers that are hired, we took the low money that was actually there in place and we started making transfers around. Also, we had some other places that were with, like, the cameras at the Big 4 bridge in those areas. Again, that was not, those line items there were missed. So we're taking funds and we're moving funds around to make those coverages to continue everything as it was in the previous years from 2015 to 16. So for that there, we went through and we listed some things down. We put them in bullet points. I want to go right down the line and give you the illustration exactly what's going on. One thing we noted here off the top, we did $480,000 was set for overtime. I just want to bring that to light. We spent last year $650,982.50. Just want to make you aware. Obviously, that's been an issue there with the police department every year coming. We're doing the things that we can do to cut those down, but however, we've implemented the additional coverages, things with like bike patrol. We're covering the Big 4 bridge area with the events that are also there. All that comes out of the cumulative overtime cap fund that we have, and I just want to bring it to light so you can see. Right here, we requested an additional $34,000 to make up the shortfall there of the buyback. That's going to be officers that are pay out with vacation. We have 1 retirement. Here, as of last Wednesday, we had a second. We've had 2 officers within the last 30 days leave unexpected. 1 officer left and went to another department. 1 officer left and got out of a police work as of last Wednesday and started a new job today, left the department. So we're needing to make, in addition to a retirement hire, we're now having to make 2 additional hires. What that does is, with those officers leaving, they have accumulated vacation time and those payouts. So on top of what are the contract obligations, we're making additional payouts that are not there in room. So the $34,000 we're requesting to make up in composition of where we're having to make these payouts here coming up this Friday. With a total of 3 officers leaving, we're only prepared to have 1. Office supplies. It says the budget was $2,000 lower now there from 15. So last year, transferred out of that, we had the expenses that was additionally $2,000 lower. We've been also making transfers that I spoke of in January. We've been transferring funds in other places to cover some of the office supplies that are actually needed. Take the second one on the ammunition.
On the ammunition, the previous council approved to hire 3 additional officers. However, the additional funding for the ammunition for the new officers required at the police academy were not added. Based off 3 additional officers and replacing 2 of them, an additional $5,000 for ammo. That's what they have to be sent to the academy with, and that includes shotgun rounds, their normal practice rounds. So based off what we have to send them to either Evansville or Plainfield with, that's going to be $5,000 for ammo. separate than, we've already placed our 2016 order for ammunition. We placed that back in the summer of 15. And that was almost zeroed out from Keesler's. That was right on our ammo for 2016. But that's for the department and the normal department training. This is separate. This is academy required ammunition. The other supplies, 2015 budget did not have any funds appropriated to this line. Police department paid for items that will be categorized as, quote, other supplies that are expended out of other lines. We discussed it with the finance department. They advised funds for other office items they need to be expended from the appropriate lines. That request was $17,000 in the budget request. $2,000 came from the office supply lines. No funds were approved or appropriated to this line. Just so you guys know what other items are, you're looking at evidence boxes, bags, crime scene tape, for the detectives, shoe cover, anything a detective would need to process a crime scene, covers, gloves, fingerprinting recoveries, evidence item recoveries, the NARC detectives and some of our patrol officers, the drug test kits, those are pretty pricey. The evidence lab supplies and just other normal items that go with everyday police work that we would use out of that line.
The safety supplies was $6,500 less than the 2015 budget. And this, again, was cut without any explanation. But what I want to note is, again, supplies of sharp containers, gloves, some other things that support the criminal detective division, and then general supplies that you hand out to patrol, that is significant. But with what's going on right now here with the adjacent county, with the outbreak, infectious disease control, this line where we make those purchases out of, that the $6,500 was cut was being less. Contractual obligations, moving on to that, again, previously, an additional $9,000 right there is being requested. The department has currently expanded $11,000 of funds for contracts that were supported by Lloyd funds in 2014 and 2015. However, 0 funds were approved or appropriated in the Lloyd contractual obligation. Computer software and maintenance. The request submitted in this line was $22,000. This amount was taken from technology. However, when the budget was approved at 0, we were approved for this line. $22,000 was not appropriated in technology, and that was a previous line in the 2015 budget.
Okay, for travel, with the approval of the 3 additional officers that we hired that are currently now in Evansville, funds were not added for the additional travel expenses for the academy. The current hire process, they're not, basically when we hire somebody, it doesn't give us enough time to schedule cadets for Plainfield. The March class was taken, we were put on a July waiting list for enrollment. We were like number 40 on the waiting list, so they weren't going to get in July class. Then we would have had, so basically 2016 hires wouldn't have seen the academy until 2017. They wouldn't have been out on the road mid-summer of 2017 for 2016 hires. So based off of that, the additional cost for 4 officers to attend the Southwest Indiana Law Enforcement Academy in Evansville, which usually always has rooms to accept these cadets, that's $4,200 per person. We sent 4 out there to Evansville. That ensures that these 4 officers, they're going to be out on the street in FTO prior to June. I mean, that is a lot more expedient than sending them up to Plainfield. Now we have 2 additional openings. We'll have to send two other officers later in the year. If we send them back to Evansville, that'll be another $8,400 to get them their approved training. Again, we can't control Plainfield and what they do. We're looking for the best, most feasible option to get the officers out there, again, because it's a domino effect. We don't have the officers on the street, that creates overtime positions, then we get into overtime expenditures. And again, to have them out June the 1st, out on the street, working in the city, that to me was a bargain. But again, we didn't have the funds appropriated of $25,200 total for the 4.
Prior to making that decision too, I did communicate, we kind of knew this issue would come up last fall in dealing with it. I spoke with the council president at the time, Councilperson Gill. She was aware of this, and I advised her the options of what we were actually looking at before. Lieutenant Grimm advised me prior to the transition between he and I, this is one of the options that he did have, and they were starting to work on it. We proceeded forward and followed up with this, and we actually believe sending these 4 officers down to Evansville was the best viable option versus having them here on the payroll, being able to do just some minimal training and not getting them state certified. So this is why the action that we took, and prior to spending these funds here doing this now, I did communicate with Councilperson Gill. I wanted to make that be aware of. In the medical billing line, and I think that we've got some clarification. I've been working with the clerk, Mrs. Conlon, and what we're going to actually do is on that, we're going to do a transfer between coming back from the merit board, which is going to be able to help support us in this category. So I think that there is going to be able to be taken care of.
For police department repairs, at the very bottom of the page, page 3, requested an additional $5,000 to cover repairs for the building. The warranty for the building expired December, so now we're on the any repairs, maintenance costs that are out of the normal, that aren't large, we're going to have to foot the bill for. Most of that stuff is minor repairs, but in the event that something does happen, a door breaks or keys need to be rekeyed or lights, that right now we don't have anything to to pay the vendors that come and fix the building. And it is a new building. A lot of stuff is under warranty, but there are some things now where when I call and say, hey, this is broke, it's not under warranty, AML won't cover it, and we have to get a private vendor to come in and fix whatever's broken. So that 5,000 padding should be sufficient for 2016 to cover whatever costs that are incurred with repair of the building.
The equipment line, I want to note this. In 2015, my understanding, 0 funds were appropriated in the beginning of the year in that equipment line. So later in the year, a transfer of funds from a general line was conducted so that those funds could be expended appropriately and support the equipment expenses. So again, coming before you now in the 2016 line, there's not anything there. So we want to bring that to light here at this point in time now.
So based off of that, we have 0 funds for equipment, which would, again, include intoximeter, anything that would be pertain to general patrol work. We're not out purchasing things that aren't out of the realm of the basic patrolman duties, but things break, they need to be replaced. Tasers, some of our tasers are becoming outdated. Those are $1,000 a piece right there. Some radio equipment, general car equipment, in order to repair some of the radar equipment that we have for speed enforcement. That's going to go, they're not under warranty, that's going to cost us to repair or replace. We looked into different options of buying refurbished equipment. Again, you could be stuck with someone else's lemon if you choose to go down that road. I don't think that's a wise investment myself. But we are looking at the most fiscally responsible way to repair or replace any equipment. And some of the stuff is it's so outdated that it has to be replaced. We don't have a choice. Some of the vendors and manufacturers have gone and they don't make a certain model of taser anymore. They'll make the parts for a couple of years, and after that, they just force you to buy the new X26 taser. So you just don't have a choice in the matter if you're going to carry that type of equipment. And that's without the camera. You're looking at $1,100 per taser. So that's just some of the general equipment needs that we have to make the everyday operation of patrol as safe for the men and women as we possibly can that are on our department. Again, they deserve that. So.
Moving on to contractual. In 2015, the budget had $20,600 appropriated. The same request for 2016 was actually made. These funds are used for, again, this is important, for the security cameras out at the Big 4 Bridge in that area. That's going to be one of the things that's actually significantly taken care of there. There is a current transfer request we're making now for $23,000 for that out of vehicles that is actually waiting for that to be approved. But again, this is one of the issues that we want to bring to light. And I want to tell you that's pretty imperative with what happened actually right before Thanksgiving. We utilized those cameras time with the city of Louisville and their real-time cameras, and we identified the suspect that actually ran that lady and those children over down there. So cameras are used. There's other incidents and criminal activity that happens and occurs. We've had some issues with some other vandalism, and we were able to actually capture some of the activity that's going on down there in the area.
Chief, the contractual that you were just talking about, that's jumping into the Lloyd budget, right? And
Yes.
everything before that has been general fund budget?
Yes.
Can we go back to some of the general fund items then, because I have some questions,
Okay.
and then we'll move on to the Lloyd.
Everything that I mentioned prior to that point was general.
Right. Sorry, I've got several pages here, looking, cross-referencing.
Let me, I can comment first.
Sure.
Assistant Chief, you mentioned multiple times that former council overlooked this and did this. So you're speaking specifically to Ed, Lisa, Matt, and myself. And so I'm gonna,
And Steve,
and Steve, sorry about that.
Man, always undershort. Even on council.
Right.
And that's why at the very beginning, I didn't want to miss out anyone, but that first email I sent to Matt, right in January, what's going on, we're transferring money, that's why I directed that email, you're correct, write it for you all to see.
My comment is, we spent a great deal of time during our budget meetings. I mean, more time than we'd like to spend for budget meetings. And we specifically came back and asked, we knew we had more requests than we had money. I'm not talking about just your department, the whole city. So we went back and we said, tell us where to cut, because we got to cut down to this level. We had to have a balanced budget. That was our goal, and we set it up front. When we did, we were told, the response that we got back was, you have the budget submitted that we're going to stick with. And we said, tell us where to cut, because you know where to cut. We don't know where to cut. And we were told that response a second time. So we did our job. We did what we had to do. We had to go in and cut the budgets, not just yours, but across the city to come down to the threshold that was our goal to make sure and hit. And it's even while that happened, we increased from the original budget of 2015 for the police. I'm talking about a year ago, 2015. It was a little over 6.6 million. This budget was 7.3 million. So we, even with all the cuts, we increased it over $600,000. And I know there's a ton of requests, but it's very frustrating when you're sitting in this seat to ask for help on the front end and be told, no, you deal with it. And we dealt with it. And now we're coming back and we're being blamed as the former council for not providing enough funds. And I just think that's disingenuous.
Well, first thing I want to point out and let's note that in your synopsis of what you just gave here with us, you did not include the factor contributing of the raises. Is that correct?
No,
It increased.
we added $520,000 for salaries.
Right, but we didn't verbally mention that just now, correct? You mentioned that the budget increased, and you spoke of those things, and you're right, you asked a second time, but sitting here now, I think it's fair for everyone here to know that there was raises that caused that to increase. So we're now here before you where you made those cuts, and you made those cuts. I agree with what you're saying, but let's put that out here on record. It increased because there was contractual obligations of raises as well. Okay, and that okay, and that wasn't noted.
Certainly not all of it. But
Not
yes.
all of it, but let's get that out there so
Follow
everyone
this
knows.
correctly, there was a budget increase of maybe 700,000 and 500,000-ish was because of raises.
Salaries, yes.
So non-salary increase was in the neighborhood of $250,000. Did I follow that correctly?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Does that include, when we say we,
That's a general fund, not Lloyd. I'm still talking
right,
general.
it did, but you said that salaries increased. Did you take into account the, all of the payroll taxes and imposts and everything? Is that included in your contractuals or your payroll increase?
we went by Heather's numbers.
Yeah, I think
Right.
it's the line item salaries. So I think the answer to your question is no.
Okay, so then a part of that $250,000 is the payroll increase, or payroll taxes,
Could be,
interest,
yes,
and
it could
things
be.
like
Oh,
that?
it would be if, yeah.
So you are correct, that was asked, and where we are now moving forward as you're adding police officers in the city growing. I mean, these are all areas and places, when I start speaking of in January, I want to be honest with you, and you make a very good valid point. I just want to make sure that as we're saying this, we want to get all the information out here so everyone can totally, you're correct, be informed on what occurred prior to, but let's also speak of, let's be inclusive on the other parts of the information as well. But nevertheless, you're right. We agree or disagree. Where are we at today now dealing with the issue at hand for public safety here in the city of Jeffersonville for the citizens and being fiscally responsible? I agree.
I have two things.
Okay, just if I can, office supplies was cut over the year before about $4,000, but you mentioned other supplies, and that those are things that are outside of the office supply category. I'm not showing a budget at all for that in 2015. I'm showing where you requested $17,000 in that line item for 16, but I'm not showing any history in that line item. So if there's...
Go ahead.
Yes, that's true, and that is, the reason for the change is because we got with finance, and they were calling me saying, hey, you got this, it's not an office supply. I'm like, yeah, but we don't have another line, we don't have any funds to take it out of somewhere else. They go, we need other office stuff. I said, well, can we just run through it this year, and then next year we'll request if that's for the other office. And I even, part of the 2016 request was transferring 2,000 from office to other, but since it got zero, we give the 2,000 back anywhere. The same with the 22,000 in technology services. I wasn't asking for additional, I was like, let's just move it around, but since it got cut completely, it gets it back in.
I understand. So you lost that $4,000 in the office supply line because you requested it elsewhere, and it was
Correct.
just taken out completely. Okay. Go ahead.
When you keep mentioning about the hiring of 3 additional police officers, with all due respect to that, we just said to, of course, Amy's not here, we said to Amy and Heather that just put in for the hire of the 3 new budgets, whatever that car, their uniforms and all that. We know that there's probably going to be stuff that we miss, like ammunition or whatever, but we just went by whatever numbers that they gave us per officer. So we know there's going to be some oversights there. And I do also, because being president of the council last year, we did meet on, when he's talking about the 432.006, the travel, which was the additional 3 police officers. How we kind of left that was, because at the time, we discussed that even in a council meeting, that you didn't know what class you'd be able to get them into. So we just said, we met on that, and we knew that for the best thing to move forward as the city is to get them in the earliest class and just come back to us and request additional. That's kind of how I remember leaving that, Nathan and Steve and Matt and Ed. So we just said, just come back, whatever class you get them in, and because there was a differential in, if you could get them in that first class, it was going to cost significantly more than the other class, which you were going to try to get them in an earlier class, but at the time, we didn't have what class they were going into, the exact number, so we just requested you come back and request that additional.
Do you have a total number that you're asking to appropriate into the out of the general fund budget?
And what is that number?
Hold on. If you look on your narrative page,
Uh-huh.
the goal, it covers the goal.
I think it's $306,682.
Say that again, 300,
I tried to add up like Ian is suggesting, 306,682.
Is that in general only?
That's in general only, and more than that from Lloyd. 349.4.
349.4.
Yeah.
Oh.
The,
It's not.
oh, well,
That's not the figure that.
well, tell me if I did this right. Overtime,
No, we're not requesting
No.
because we're just making you be aware of it.
okay. So that drops 170 off that then.
I came up with 197 ballpark range, not exact. Is that what you got in?
So
So the
for clarity,
123.
overtime, you're not asking for anything.
No, we just wanted to bring that to light here now and for the new members,
And
for
you
everyone
are
to know.
you are asking, I'm going down your list. You are in buyback. You are not in office supplies. You are in ammunition. You are in other supplies. You are in safety.
Yes,
You are in contractual.
yes,
And,
Commu-
yeah, you are in computer software.
yes,
Not in technology. You
No.
are in travel. You are in medical billing. Well, that was just handled, you said, right? I'm sorry. Page 3. And then you are in repairs, and you are not in equipment.
That depends if
I-
take out medical or not.
in travel, we are.
Yeah.
We had to spend, we sent them to that Evansville Academy, there was more incurred additional cost.
Yeah,
Yes, okay.
I'm with you, Ken. Just, I was reading off the bold ones.
Okay, yes,
Am I correct in that?
yes.
I think they said the medical was gone.
The medical billing, no,
So
we're
that's-
going to do a transfer coming
That's
out.
handled. Yeah. And you are in repairs, and you are not in equipment. The equipment was the last one before Lloyd.
On page 4.
General equipment, we didn't request any.
Okay.
That's 135.7. That's the number I have.
135.7 for general.
Which would be all the bold numbers throughout the general fund, our explanation of what we'd actually be requesting for each category. No.
Didn't include it, 135.7.
And, Chief, you, even with the new hires, you're expecting later in the year overtime that you have to come back for overtime, correct?
We will. I'll be honest with you that I'm going to do everything possible to, but understand with doing things like the bikes, getting them out. And again, when you all call in or anyone calls in those complaints, we're doing that proactive policing where we're putting a response on it. And right now, I don't have anyone just assigned to that on the baseline. We are doing, though, like things like the Big Four Bridge, we're trying to incorporate that and cut that cost down, having officers down there to incorporate that on baseline services.
And the 135.7, you're asking that from the general fund?
Yes.
Just to get to adding, that's including 2,000 in the office supplies and 10,000 in the
Ex-
that brings it to 135.
For the,
We excluded
The medical
we
billing.
excluded the medical billing.
Take that out?
Yes, the 10,000 out.
What about the 2,000 in office supplies? Take that out?
That's what I got. We got 123.7. Yeah.
Okay.
I can,
Make it still not. But yeah, we're not gonna type in right now.
Yeah.
So what do you do now?
Later.
both of us. Maybe it would like-
Well, the overtime for last year wasn't that much,
1, 2, 3, 7.
I don't think. Yes,
I mean,
yes.
with our current budgeting, do we have those funds?
We do. We do, and we'll talk a little bit more about available funds a little bit later, but let's go through his requests for now so we can get done in a timely manner. Go ahead, Chief, if you want to move on to Lloyd.
You did the contractual, correct? Did not? Okay. Moving on into I did address the contractual, correct? Okay. Moving on into the Big Four. There, 2015, there was $12,000 that was appropriated there. That is actual needed for security measures and with the camera that we're using through the system with Security Pro. The same amount was requested for 2016. This is to, again, assist with the surveillance system there as well. Moving on into Lloyd equipment, 2015 budget was 36.1 was appropriated. The police department requested $54,000 to cover the cost of equipment with the 3 additional officers and the 2 replacements. Zero funds there as well. A transfer was submitted to there for $54,000, and you will see actually where with the $600,000 that we started with, we have a number that we're going to be actually showing to make up some things there in composition. That's going to assist with vehicles, vest. Also, we have added 2 new canines, and we took 2 of the vehicles that we took out of service. We put them back in, where we brought the canine division up to 5 officers. We're using those old vehicles again. We're going to make those go through at least till the summer, but we're working to transition those back out of service. The amount we're asking for is $54,400 on that. Moving on to police equipment and repair. 2015, the budget was $17,000 appropriated. 2016, we requested $125,000. Zero funds were approved. In past practice, this line is used for annual equipment needed, replace repair of equipment, radio parts, other parts upgraded, tasers, taser cartridges. We're in a need right now with our tasers, the ones that we actually have in service now. Some of them have an age of 8 to 10 years. So we're needing to get those out of service and gradually move through the department. So we did some increases there as well, and additional. Also, we put in for the SWAT team additionally to have to line out an actual budget. One of the things we found actually coming in last year, in past, prior, somewhere within transition, we did have a budget of approximately $25,000. At the time, I'd set that up as a SWAT commander. Within the last couple of years, they did away, and there was actually some spending there. So we worked out and we tailored up a budget. It was $18,500 that we actually requested for with SWAT. Also, this is going to support in that $125,000. We had a river patrol, also bike. We've had some repairs that we're dealing with our mobile command that is over 10 years old. These are all things in that avenue there, that expense that we're actually dealing with. We wanted to plan to, we did a grant to purchase further bikes for the bike patrol to put some of those older bikes out of service. Everything in that line of 125 that we're asking for, you can see that's incorporated in there, or we can ask any questions going through. Moving on to vehicles here. 2016 request was $600,000, approved $580,000, of which $77,000 we've already transferred out in other areas. And that's what I started speaking of in January, where we had the deficiencies. We started moving money out of the $600,000 that was for Lloyd vehicles to help support the police department and keep everything moving in transition for 2016. So in the fleet right now, we're starting to look at and price cheaper vehicles other than the Chevy Caprice to save money. We're trying to save a couple $1,000s. We're doing that part of ourselves to be more fiscally responsible and manageable, to go to a different classification of vehicle and save at least a couple $1,000s on each vehicle. We've actually budgeted in 9 patrol vehicles right now. Equipment for each vehicle is $12,500. Also, I spoke with you last year when we came in, that evidence truck, we've had some further problems with that. We've been spending dollars there. We're going to need to get that evidence truck out of service. It has 160,000 miles. Also, I have 2 more supervisors' vehicles that we've started to address and transition in this administration, where those vehicles are pushing 90,000 miles and they're 7 years old, the older Crown Vics. That also was incorporated there as well. We've also looked at some other avenues too, with some of the vehicle collisions that we've had, approximately like the last 5, not at fault accidents, and the insurance money. Working with the vehicle maintenance department, we're going to be coming back where we've been able to save some funds and dollars, and we're going to be asking for those funds where the insurance installments have went back in. I want to bring that to light. We're going to be making that request for some of those funds to come back in to assist us with putting at least 1 or 2 vehicles back in the fleet. Here at this point, we're asking to be reappropriated is $58,000. At this point in time, that's going to conclude us, but we'll take any questions or any further information that we can elaborate on to underneath this Lloyd category to answer questions.
You also asked for the $77,000 transfer back?
Yes. Yeah,
No.
77.
No,
I have a question on the 445.002 equipment. When I look at the 2015 budget, that doesn't exist. Is that something that was added in 2016 or late in 2015?
I'm sorry.
I don't see that number exists in our budget for 2015. Is that something new that was added for a 2016 budget?
On 445,
.002?
I show it, police equipment purchase or repair, 17,000.
For 2015?
I show it on this spreadsheet that they've provided, yes.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I went back to the original budget when we were going to 2015, and that didn't exist. So I wonder if that wasn't just overlooked as maybe, Heather, the 445.002, is that something that was added like late in 2015 or in 2016? I don't see that was part of the discussion when we did the budget in 2015. I just wonder how we were off by that.
Or 30.
And then on the 445.003, in the 2015 budget, the request was $80,000. So we obviously must have moved money somewhere to make that much larger than it used to be.
Could you read that second number off? You just, right there.
Yeah, the 445.003 vehicles. When I look at the 2015 request and budget, it's 80,000.
Okay, 445.003.
So it seems like both of those are like big changes from the previous.
It's 49. It's right there on the back page. 49,704 for 2015.
445.003?
Yes, 49,704 in 2015.
Okay. And now the request was 60,000 and the approved was 580?
that was in General Lloyd vehicles.
There, let me go back to the sheet.
Yeah, requested, in 2016, the request was 600,000. The approved amount was 580 in 2016.
The request is 58,000 for .003 right now. In 2015, that number was 49.7.
Right, so the line for equipment purchasing right there, is that correct?
2015, what was the approved budget for that?
2015, it was requested at 45,000, and it was approved at 17,000. And then in 2016, it was requested at 125,000, and then you all just gave them that whole sum to be transferred.
From what, yeah.
And then there was another.
That's right. They answered that.
Chief, you mentioned something about cars that are less expensive. What type of,
Well, we've looked at actually some of the tests that come out the Michigan State Police. The department's currently been operating the last 4 years in the Chevy Caprice. It's a fine quality vehicle, it's on there, but in the categories and some of the performance, the Dodge Charger. So we started pricing that vehicle. We've been able to save right at almost a couple $1,000s of looking at that vehicle, the fuel consumption and everything there. It's going to be somewhat compatible, but this is going to be with us, looking at having a shortfall. This is going to be a viable option for us to look at something that is a good class vehicle and in performance, going to be duty standard, but save money.
and you're comfortable with no compromising safety to the officers?
Not at all whatsoever. And actually, we're getting a lot of feedback from the officers there. We've brought some in the sample and the drive and the test. We're getting positive feedback.
When we did the Lloyd budget this past year, but in years past, we just went through line items as they were presented, and if the chief at the time said we need this in equipment, this in uniforms, they really spelled it out. And this time we basically tried to identify just a chunk, a flat dollar amount, and it was 600,000 initially for the police, and the same amount for the fire. And then we had to use quite a bit of other for the call center, the 911 call center. And I think we put a little bit in there for the safety for Amir, his department, not a lot, but a little bit. Because we're trying to stay under, we didn't want to spend more. The thought process was, don't spend more than what came in for Lloyd, because we want to have it kind of for an emergency. And the intent at the time, I'm not sure how well it was communicated, was that's your money. Use it as you need to use it. It was stuck in a couple categories because, I'll blame it on Amy, because she's not here. But Heather said, you got to give it a name.
Okay.
So we did. We knew we had to get, we're going to usually get a lot of vehicles. So we put the biggest chunk in vehicles, and we knew that you were going to get some uniforms and some things. Maybe that, I don't know all the detail because I've slept, and we put them in those two categories. And then, but the idea is, when you need it for,
Right.
The hope is, which I think you try to do, Chief, is you got your pot of money, manage your money. And if we got to not buy a car and buy tasers, then by all means buy whatever is the most pressing at the time. And that's kind of where we came up with that was the thought process at the time of the budget. And
The problem comes in where we've got this 911 call center that we have to fund now, and that's taking up 45-50% of our Lowit budget. $1 million is going out for County 911, the city's share of County 911. And I think we're in a period of adjusting to that, because before we had all this money that we could pour into our police and fire departments, and without much care because we had the money coming in. Now, having a $900,000 budget for the police department out of Lowit isn't going to be sustainable. And I'm not saying it's not needed, but if we do that, we're going to spend out our reserves in, 3 or 4 years?
This wasn't an additional appropriation, wasn't like 82,000 we just had to do right in January because our 911 obligation went up.
Went up more than what we predicted. So I think, we do have an operating a balance there in that Lloyd fund. If there are immediate needs that we need to really consider, then maybe we should consider that. But moving forward, I think that we should get with maybe the chiefs and the finance committee to put out, before we had a 5-year capital plan for purchases like tasers, like vests, like cars, things like that. We planned that money out 5 years in advance, so we knew what we'd be spending as it came in. I think we need to go back to that and really look at where the priorities are and what expenses we're gonna have over the next few years, so that we can kind of spread those out.
And typically, the department has, in the past, I've checked with what the precedent has been and how things have operated in the business manner. I do believe you do have a different department head, but something within the continuity of the police department, it's going to function no matter who's there. We have not ordered any vehicles. Typically, the vehicle's already been ordered, and with this issue here in front of us, I want you all to know that we're not taking any steps and measures to make any of those type of large capital expenses until we get this here, resolve what we're going to do, and know what we're working from to be here to work with you and work together.
there is some good news, like to not all be bad news. We assumed, or we projected, that our Lloyd revenue for this coming year would be about 2.3, and so we did our budget based on a little bit over 2.2, a little bit under that. Checked with Heather today, and been communicating a lot with Heather today, and it's coming in, the actual is going to be right about 2.5. So it's up about 200,000. So as we look at this, there may be some wiggle room there, and I'm sure the fire department will want their fair share of that too. But that is some positives that we have, at least some money we may have to work with.
So, getting back to the budget process during last year, for the new ones that were here, Amy's here and she can verify this. We sat down with finance and we looked at their expenditures, what in their appropriation, what they spent last year, compared to, we just tried to do the best that we could We went line by line based on what they spent and what was appropriated. Nothing was maliciously done. There was no conspiracy thing. We weren't trying to zero out any funds or anything like that. We just tried to do the best that we could because to be honest with you, we had a $3 million expenditures over what the revenue we were bringing in, so we were just trying our best to get it down to meet the revenue that we have coming in. So I don't want you all to take anything personally. I've been hearing some comments and remarks, and that was not the case. We went line by line, and we looked at that one day was 5 hours we spent just going through police and fire and going back to their, did we not? Is that not what we did?
Yeah, full council, yeah.
Well, we did that with full council, but then we also did a lot in finance, and plus we did a lot when we put a thing out who could meet, and I know that I was in some of those meetings. I know that we went line by line, and we went back to expenditures, but we knew that that was going to be faulted in a way because we did not know what they kept, but here's what kind of got us a little bit, because some of the stuff that was left, and we thought, well, they don't need that much, not knowing that they didn't spend that until November, December or whatever. That's where it's like, well, when we do that in the future, we're going to have department heads sit down with us so we know what's spent, because we're looking at, well, they had this amount of money here, they didn't need it here, but they're going to need it here. In reality, you all spent it in November and December, and we were doing our budget workshops and stuff before that hand. So nothing was...
Well, that's good. And you're going to get out of us direct communication. If you're hearing anything or something directed from us, indirect from us, let us know, but you're going to get direct communication. Also, we had these concerns last fall. However, coming up, we thought it would be prudent and reasonable not to, the time of year with the election, we didn't want to bring those concerns and come to light and make those some type of political quagmire. So we wanted to wait now to the first of the year and address this reasonably and professionally, and I think the manner here is working fluently for all of us.
I just wanted to make that statement because
Right.
we've got quite a few new council members. They have not been through a budget process. They don't know what our thinking was, how we did it, how we went about it. So I just wanted to bring them up to speed and kind of how we approached it and how we came up with the numbers that we did.
Thank you. We appreciate your help and support.
So you're looking at $349,000-ish out of Lowett?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was counting in the 77,000.
Already, that's the 23 and the 54 already in there. That confused Heather also. So where you see the 23,000 in contractual and then 54,400 equipment,
Okay.
that's what's been transferred already. So if you count those both, that's comfortable 272.
Okay. Okay. Chief, we're going to take this under advisement and probably,
I think you have public comment. I know, and the one person that's
Yeah, I don't
here.
know if you wanted to do it at the end.
Oh, that's up to the president. I just want to let you to be aware that we do have public comment.
Chief, would you maybe get us a list like you did during budgets of what vehicles, how many vehicles you have in the police force and the mileage you have, so we can expect next year and the year after that?
Okay.
How many miles y'all put on?
you got last year?
Yeah, just maybe updated. Yeah, that was good last year.
Okay, we'll do.
Thank you.
is public comment typical in a workshop?
I've not seen this do that before, but nothing was precluded.
Okay.
Workshop.
We'll
It's up to you all.
we'll go ahead and allow Mr. Snelling to speak tonight, but in the future, that's not going to be,
Yeah.
this is a work session,
Well, it did say workshop, so that's,
right? Have we? Okay. All right. Chief, we're going to move on to Chief Hedrick,
Thank you.
and we appreciate it.
Thank you all and appreciate your time and efforts.
Mr. President, do you want me to announce it because it's only do with this one subject? You want me to knock it out first?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm just saying, anyway, I don't want to take any more.
Sure. I guess our normal public comment time frame will stand at 3 minutes. If you
3
could
minutes,
just
okay.
give your name and
Sure.
address for
Good
the
evening,
record.
everybody. My name is Jeremy Snelling, resident of Jeffersonville, 1747 U Street, Jeffersonville. I'm also the president of the Jeffersonville Merit Commission for the police department. The reason I came tonight is mainly just to get some light on a subject of the Lowett I was under the understanding that money was going to be taken from our budget that had been approved and transferred to the police department to pay for the medical. Heard a couple different figures. I just want a quick clarification. Are we at 10,000 or at 5,000? Okay, 5,000. I had that on record. We're at 5,000, and that's it. It's asking to come out of our budget. Okay. Because what threw me off again was because I saw the 10,000 on the police department's paperwork. Want to make sure since it's coming for our budget.
Right.
Okay. Just historically, what we do for the merit board is when we have new hires, we cover the cost of the testing. We, we do the interviewing process ourselves as the merit board. We don't hire that out, which saves a ton of money to the city. And also, we pay for the eval for the psychological. Historically, it's been only for new hires, nothing for previous or people, officers that are already on the department now or any type of lateral moves. I just wanted to make sure we can confirm how much money is being taken out because with this year, you all should know that we have the new hires. We already talked about the 3, and hopefully some additional later in the year. Plus, the merit has been asked to review something this Wednesday night about hiring possibly 2 officers that are not on the new hiring list. So with that, I don't know if we are going to pay for eval for that as well, but my main concern is, like anything, everybody wants to work within their budget. They don't want to exceed their budget any way possible. So with that, I want to make sure we have enough money to finish out the year because, like I said, we don't know exactly how many officers are going to be hired yet this year. We don't know. It's kind of like a number out there you can only reach for, but you really don't know for sure. And if we take additional monies out of the medical, I want to make sure that we have enough to cover that at the end of the year because I don't like to come to the council and anything I've ever done, any type of job, I don't like coming after the fact saying I need more money, if I don't have to. Granted, there's situations you have to, but I'd rather not. So I came here tonight to get clarification of that. Like I said, I had a couple different numbers thrown at me. This money's coming out of your budget. This money's going to come out of your budget. And there was no discussion at all with us as the merit board. Our previous meeting was last Tuesday night, and nothing of this was discussed at all.
Can I
Yes, ma'am.
help?
Yeah. So, just like I said, the main thing I was wanting is clarifications, which, Ms. Collins helped me quite a bit before the meeting ever started. I appreciate that. But like I said, I just want to know how much actually was coming out dollar figure because I'd heard several different figures. I wanted to make sure we weren't getting zeroed out because at first I heard the number would zero us out in medical, and then it changed to 5,000 in the night, of course 10. But like I said, the main thing was I wanted to know exactly how much money was coming out that we can always know to work through it. So,
Real quick, last year, we had a budget started last year. If you recall, they had never had a budget before, and we set up a budget. And we had testing at $13,994. And that was all used last year for police merit 4, and that testing included the new hires, their psychological, anything that went to the state. That was their testing. Mr. Snelling wasn't the president at the time or anything. So when it came time for this year for the budget, Patty and I worked on the budget together as Patty's the secretary, and we increased that to $25,000 to make sure that we had enough money in there. Then during the budget processes, remember you all took the $19,000 and transferred it over. So actually, if you add the 19 to the 25, there's more than enough money there, I feel. And on the 5,000 that we're asking that the chief and I had spoken about, these are for psychologicals that they do in-house. They had no money in their budget for that. This is if he has a officer who he feels needs to be tested. And I told, I agree. I don't think I need to see those claims. I don't think I need to see a police officer's name on a claim for something like that. Testing for a new hire is a totally different situation. But somebody working in mental health as long as I did, I don't think we need to have those names spread around on people. So that's where that came from.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was mostly for clarification because I don't know if you're all aware of, we have a great group of officers that's going to be testing for advancement. The mayor also picked up the bill for buying the books, which is 2 books per officer, which was 26 officers, now it's 25 officers. So the merit pays quite a bit through testing process, and I want to make sure that we weren't going to cut too short on testing because it is very expensive when you add new hire testing and then you have rank advancement testing. So, like I said, and I wanted to just get clarification because, like I said, knowing what's in front of you is always better than worrying. So, thank you for your time. And I guess just for clarification, I guess for council, at workshops, I know is the merit board as an entity itself can have agenda time, or does it have to be a public or nothing at all?
What do you mean agenda time?
Well, it's like tonight, I wasn't here. I was here for clarification for the president of the merit board. I wasn't here for public comment as just a resident.
Well, normally when we schedule a workshop, you can request.
Okay.
to be added to it.
Okay.
Right.
Like I said,
So as long as you do that ahead of time.
right. And if we known this was going to be a topic, we would have definitely done that pre-hand. It was a last minute notice of being informed of this. So thank you all very much.
Heather, when the general fund revenues every year, they increase at a percent based on what the state allows us to do, right? Which is what, around 3%? How much additional revenue comes from the general fund in a given year for 2015 or 2016? Okay, and what was last year's revenue? You know? Okay, I guess what I was trying to get at is how much additional revenue do we have in any given year as we increase different budgets? And is that sustainable and for how long? And that was going to be my only point, is that 3% of, 26 million is...
But no, it's about 3% of the property taxes.
16 million.
Okay, so it's 3% of...
Property taxes
That go in, okay. So 3% of 16, which is about?
$500,000.
About half, thank you.
Yep.
So about $500,000. And when I look at like previous years in the police department, I know we all, we want to do everything we can to keep our citizens safe. When you look from 2013 to 2014, it went up 200,000. When you look up 2014 to 2015, it went up 300,000. When you look at 2015, the budget that was approved in 2016, it's about 300,000 round numbers. So as you look at additional revenue we get in the general fund and what we have to do to try to have a sustainable budget, that's the challenge we have in front of us.
Chief?
Thank you. I appreciate you guys seeing us in the workshop. I had mentioned again, like Chief Kavanaugh, about some of the concerns that we had with our budget. I want to kind of do this a little bit backwards. I think it'll be easier to understand. I do also have some general budget concerns, and then the majority of my concerns are in the LOIT funds. But with the general budget, additional funds that I'll be asking for in the general budget is $46,500. And what I've done is I've got the categories of where those come from. And I'll start with office supplies. Office supplies, all we're doing in office supplies is it was cut $6,500, is replenishing that back to where it was for 2015. Fire investigative supplies, $2,500. That's just replenishing it back to where it was for 2015. That's the materials we use, obviously, to investigate fires, to do inspections, also fire prevention, some of the stuff that we hand out, books and things like that, to the kids and senior citizens programs. Tires and tubes, replenishing it back to where 2015 number of 10,000, we got cut there $2,500, taking it from 7,500 to 10. Now this one here is above and beyond the 2015. This is contract services. We're seeing an increase in contract services because of our internet services to the firehouses. With the CAD system, we've had to push I don't know a lot about this, I should have brought Matt for this. We have to push the speed of the feed that comes to each firehouse, and that is an increase in our monthly bill from Time Warner. It increases the monthly bill
per 5 houses, for all 5 houses, of about $700 a month increase over what we pay now, Time Warner wise. And that is pushing our speed to faster speed bandwidth. Is that maybe, I don't know which one of you guys is most IT savvy, but it's going to,
Why is that, why do you need the?
for our CAD system on our trucks, which is the new computer system, the tablets, they update and download information from it wirelessly when the units come back into the firehouse. Right now, we are actually just all on residential service at the firehouses. Evidently, that's not enough per what Matt has done or looked at. So we're looking to increase the speed to a commercial speed at each of the 5 firehouses. That's an increase in contract services, that portion of $8,000. And then we're also looking for contract service increase of an additional $10,000, making that an $18,000 increase in contract services total because of the lawn service. We had given our lawn equipment to the green team. Last year, they were cutting our grass, and from what I understand, that program may not exist this year. So I guess our options are to buy new equipment or to contract those services out. And
Why can't you get your equipment back?
I think it's been upgraded, moved, and damaged, from what I understand. Some of it, which we didn't have a lot of equipment, just a couple weed eaters, blowers, and we did have a riding mower that we gave to those guys. So we could, like I said, that's an option. We could. My opinion is to contract it out or have some city department take care of that. Matt and I even discussed possibility of having I have to give it the sheriff, of having the orange team do it. But I hate to put them to work without knowing how that works as far as the sheriff's department. Those are the inmates. They do cut some common areas, but I haven't checked with the sheriff to see if they could cut all 5 firehouses or not, but maybe it's an option to look at. We estimated the increase for contracting lawn services of $10,000. Travel and mileage, we're trying to replenish it back to the $7,000 of where it was at last year for 2015.
How much additional, Eric?
For travel,
Yep.
$4,000. It got cut to $3,000.
Okay.
The sewer utility got cut from $9,000 to $5,000. We did have some remaining funds in that line item from last year. So I think an increase there of $3,000, which would actually take it lower than last year's budget, but I think we'll still be able to meet our budget. I know Councilman White was investigating the possibility of inner-city sewer rates being not collected, but I think that may be hard to do. Yeah, since it's a separate entity. So just a $3,000 increase there, making it $8,000, $1,000 less than 2015. And then repairs and maintenance, we got a $10,000 decrease there. It was $81,000, 2016 is $71,000. We'd like to replenish that back to $81,000. Those are general budget concerns, total of $46,500. $10,000 of that being the lawn care contract. So, like I said, that one's a little bit up in the air.
How much did you say for the repairs and maintenance?
10,000 increase. It was 81, it's now 71, so we'd like to put it back up to 81. That's the only general budget concerns that we have at this time. I know you guys usually hear me talk about general budget. I'm usually talking about overtime. At this time of the year, I think we're on pace with our overtime. Last year we had a bad year, but we were still able to come in overtime. I think you guys, the council did have to increase it, but last year was an unusual year with, we had, I think, 11 FMLAs. We had a lot of babies last year, but hopefully this year we won't have as many. So a baby usually costs us a couple $1,000s in the way of FMLA leave. So moving on to Lowett. Lowett, my total, I'm going to do the same thing with it. The amount of money that we're asking out of Lowett is $125,000. And I've prioritized these. Comes from 5 separate areas. I've prioritized them from what we think is the most needed to the least needed. The most needed expense comes out of uniforms. Uniforms currently in Lowell is $20,000. Last year it was $68,000. We're asking for, we've already spent $12,000 this year. We're asking for an additional $30,000 in uniforms, and that's for our new hires. We have 5 new firefighters that we'll be asking for actually next month, March, at the next merit meeting. And the 5 are made up of the 3 additional the council has put in, plus 1 retiree replacement for Billy Davis. And then we have 1 firefighter that has filed for disability, and her last day is March 31st. So we will have 5 that we hire together in a bundle, which is more economical for us in March. Along with that, each one comes with about a $6,200 equipment cost. That comes from their uniforms in station, their helmets, boots, gear, mask, everything together, about pagers, everything together, about $6,200 each. So we're looking for a $30,000 increase in uniforms in Lowell. That is our top priority. Our second priority comes, here's where, Nathan, you'd mentioned this earlier. In our Lowell budget, you guys bundled everything into, in our case, in equipment. We have since, and last year, we break that down with Heather into particular areas for expenditures. So I'm going to mention a couple expenditures that you're not going to probably see that we're going to develop, or maybe you will see on your newest sheet. But in improvements, we're asking for a total of $60,000. $25,000 is in the way of internet router improvements that Matt Dyer has already got in place. That is a necessity for the CAD. Again, the CAD is a computer-aided dispatch at all 5 firehouses. Basically moving to a commercial internet service at the fire stations. In that same area of improvements is $30,000. That is an area where last year we had $52,000. This is improvements at the firehouse that would be like a furnace, ice machine, furnace, garage door, generator, things like that. That is not current money that we, well, I guess, Sean, under gutters, right? I think gutters would fall under there. We have gutters that we need to replace at Station 1. But as far as the $30,000, we don't have all that money spoken for. That was just general repair money as things break throughout the year. Sean, you have some...
Yeah, speaking on that all comes down to like our painting, like when we have to paint the hallways and different things like that, just general maintenance of the station. So we've got a couple stations that are kind of getting kind of old, and if any of you guys would like to take a little field trip, I'd love to show you some of the stations, some of the repairs that we need to make on those. We did last year, we tried to make some of those repairs with our budget that we had last year, but we got more repairs than we had money, so just kind of give you a kind of general idea. So that's why we were coming to you for this line item here also.
So that's under improvements. Our next priority is under repairs and maintenance. Last year we used repairs and maintenance under both Lowell and our general budget. Last year we had a total of repairs and maintenance of $151,000, and this year that actually has been cut down to $71,000. Now that $151,000 was both Lowell and general budget added up. Ours this year is general budget 71. I've asked it to be moved back to 81, and we're asking for just $30,000 to be moved into Lowell, opposed to last year's $70,150 that was used out of Lowell for repairs. The reason we think we don't need as much in that particular line item opposed to last year, and is something I've discussed with Councilperson Gill and Owen briefly about, is we have a mechanic at City Garage that's saving us a lot of funds in regards to repairs. We now have a diesel mechanic that's doing a lot of the repairs in-house. We're getting a better service, we're getting our equipment back quicker, and we're saving about half the money that it costs to send that stuff out. So instead of $70,000 in repairs that we had last year in Lowett, we're asking for $30,000 in Lowett for repairs and maintenance. That's not just vehicles, that's repairs and maintenance, again, on any sort of equipment in the firehouse. If you have service done on the furnace, for example, that would be a repair. If you replace the furnace, it would be an improvement. Is that correct? So those repairs would be plumbing repairs, anything like that, truck repairs. So that's $30,000. And then the last request in Lowett is a small request of $5,000 and a furniture line item. This is just where we replace tables, chairs for the firehouses. And that total is $125,000. To recap that again, that's $30,000 in uniforms for the new 5 hires. I'm sorry, $55,000 in improvements. That's 30 and 25 for improvements, 25 for the internet, 30 for general improvements, 30,000 in repairs, and 5,000 in furniture for 125. Does that add up, Matt? Should add up.
The first time it added up, but I don't think it just did
No,
right there.
just
I had 30 uniforms, 60 improvements, 30
Okay.
repairs, and 5 furniture. That's one.
my improvements, I had moved to 55, but though I have 60 written here. Matt's price is 24 instead of 30. I apologize, so it actually is less.
So you're asking for 120 instead of 125?
It's 30, 50. Yes, sir.
30, 55, 30, and 5.
120.
Yep.
For 120.
120.
Could you repeat the numbers one more time for us, please?
In uniforms, 30,000.
Uh-huh,
In improvements, 55,000.
okay.
In repairs, 30,000. And in furniture, 5,000. That is Lowett.
Thank you.
Questions? I did want to mention one thing while I had your all's attention. I don't want to take, I know you guys got another meeting. Station 1, built in 1964. The pad at Station 1, the concrete pad, is going to need to be replaced. There's several other issues. We have the windows there that we've showed the council before. We didn't replace the windows. It was going to be very costly. We just repaired some of them. The gutters, we have some other concerns there. I would like to talk to the council about our plan of either, if we're going to do a considerable renovation at Station 1, like I said, it's 52 years old, or there's been some discussion of relocating it to a different location that's more friendly to the city boundaries. It's probably too close to Clarksville where it sits. ISO, if you wanted to perfectly place it, it would be a little in a different spot. But just something to bring up to the council. I think that station, I know several have toured it, but either we commit to a considerable improvement down there, we keep putting Band-Aids on it, or we look at the plan of relocating. I know that's a costly option, but just something to think about. Lisa and I know we've talked about the options of what to do with Station 1, but it's...
Chief, I highly recommend that, of course, we can have 4 at a time, but I highly recommend getting council down there. I know a lot has changed probably since a good 3 years that you took me down there and showed everything. 3 years of the old building, I think it's good to go on site to see and be things pointed out and know exactly what you're talking about.
A lot of the pipes underneath Station 1, I mentioned this before, are all collapsed. We actually had the sewer department run cameras down there, and they're all collapsed underneath. It's just 52 years old, big heavy trucks that have been on those concrete pads for a long time. And we could, like I said, if we're going to replace the pad, it's a very costly thing. I think we can do it. But before we discuss that, I'd like to discuss all the options in District 1 about what the most wise thing is to do.
Chief, when were we last rated by ISO?
We were last rated in 2012, and
Be due.
it comes up 2017. I think it's every 5 years now. I actually had a call from them the other day about some new maps, which usually means they will be visiting back here in 6 months or so. So,
Okay.
which ISO, our ISO rating now, they do it a lot different, or they're advancing, they're doing it a little bit different in the way of considering more options in the way of the equipment, training. The CAD system will help our ISO considerably that we've added. So, what other questions about lowered or general budget? Nothing?
Your estimate on that firehouse one, what do you think the estimated cost would that be versus building it? We know how much the new fire station is.
I would think that we need to add to it first. We'd probably need to do an addition on the one side, which is on the New Hope side. Actually, Sean, we got an estimate for that addition. I think for the renovation, it was about 60, but I think it was considerably more than that for the windows and stuff. If you'd like, I could get a contractor down there to give us a ballpark. It all depends on what you want to, how much you want to do. The kitchens, everything is old. But I'll get an estimate put together. A new one,
Why we know what those new ones cost?
they're going to be expensive. Any other questions? I will put together something electronically that I can email you guys here in the next day of what we discussed tonight. So you have it down. Make sure it matches up with your notes. I appreciate you guys hearing us. No more questions? So it's all good to go then? Is that right, Matt?
Thank you.
We'll call you.
You're calling. I'll let you know. We'll put the check in the mail. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chief.
you.
Thanks, Chief.